Hey Muse, it's me. Yeah. It is crunch time. It's December, and it's always this way for me in December. So busy. But I'm getting everything done. Speaking of which, I have great freaking news. Yeah. I Profundus is complete. At least the first draft is complete. Now, I know that the artistic director loved Act 1 and Act 2. I just finished Act 3 and sent him the whole schmear, and I'm waiting for him to see what he thinks of Act 3. Now, I don't know if you've ever known about writing plays, Muse, but the end of the play is incredibly important, just like the beginning and the middle, actually. But as I wrote Act 3, or after I finished writing the Act 3 the first time, back in the back of my mind, back in the front and the back of my mind, I was thinking, I don't know if it ended properly. I don't know if it ended. I don't know. So I was prepared to go back in, as I always do when I write the next night, to do a bunch of rewrites. So what I did was I went back and reread all of Act 3. And of course, as I'm getting closer to the end, I'm inching near the end, I'm getting a little bit more anxious and more anxious and more anxious. And I get to the end and I think, oh my gosh, it actually ended. I really liked the way it ended. It had a sense of completion. And so I didn't have to do any rewrites, and I sent it off. And now I'm just waiting to hear what he thinks of the ending. And now I'm a little anxious. However, I'm confident. And that is part of what I want to talk about with you today, Muse. Not confidence. Because, 1 second as an artist, you can have all the confidence in the world, and the next second you could have absolutely none. I have experienced that. I have experienced a roller coaster wherein at one point of the day I had all the confidence in the world, and the next second I had none, and then the next second I had all the confidence in the world, and the next second I had none, and it just keeps going up and down and up and down and up and down like that all day. I've had days like that. I've had weeks like that. Not what I want to talk about. Here's what I want to talk about, Muse. If I were to try to put into hours the amount of time that I spent writing I Profundus, I think you'd be surprised. I don't know, but I can tell you this. It was probably, and I hesitate to even say it, because number one, I don't want to jinx myself, and number two, I don't want people to think, must have been crap. But I don't know if I spent over 10 hours writing this play, this full-length play. Now, let me tell you why. That sounds absolutely crazy, I know. But let me tell you why it happened the way it did. I was very passionate about this. This script, this play, meant so much to me for a number of reasons. The first reason being that it was me back to writing in my favorite form, my favorite medium, theater. Second, it was for a particular theater company that I love. I've worked with, and I've always wanted to have something of mine on their stage. And number three, I can't add, maths was never my strong point. Number three, I knew that because of the subject, it was going to be a massive challenge. And I love a challenge. I've said that an inordinate amount of times speaking with you, Muse. I love to be challenged as an artist. So I had all of that going for me. And because of that, it just came out of me. It meant so much. So it just happened. I put fingers to keys and the words just flowed, which was crazy because what I was doing, and here I'm going to sort of confess a little bit about this script. I've been trying to keep it close to the vest, but what I did, my goal with this, Oscar Wilde, one of the last things he wrote was a love letter to Bosie. That love letter was I Profundus, or De Profundis, I apologize, De Profundis. He wrote that while he was in prison. And the artistic director wanted this show to be about what prison did to him. So I wanted, so I wanted to take some of Wilde's words from De Profundis and meld them with my own, while Wilde was in prison. So the challenge of this script was to make that seamless, such that you couldn't tell, as either the reader or the watcher, as an audience member, you couldn't tell which words were Wilde's or which words were mine unless you were incredibly familiar with Oscar Wilde's words. In other words, if you knew the text of De Profundis and if you knew a picture of Dorian Gray and importance of being earnest and some of the love letters he wrote and some of the poems he wrote, if you were intimately familiar with those texts, you might be able to pick out which words were Wilde's and which words were mine. So my goal was to make that very hard. Now, when I went back to reread Act 3, I discovered myself going, oh, wait a minute. Did I write this or did Wilde write this? There were times I actually had to look it up to find out whose words were whose. That excited me. To no end, that thrilled me. That play meant so much to me, which translated to I had to write it. Had to being the operative term. Not wanted to, I had to write that. Now, I have been in plenty of situations, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, writing something for myself or for clients or publishers, where what I was writing didn't mean that much to me. And when that happens, it is a real slog. And there are times when you open up that file and you go, oh, I don't know, I think I have it in me tonight, which is rare for me. But my point is this. If you as a writer are working on your current work in progress, and you find yourself having a lot of trouble writing it, or you find yourself having trouble getting the impulse to want to write, the problem may very well be that you don't have a deep enough connection to what you're writing, or that it just doesn't mean enough to you. You should be beyond thrilled about what you're writing. I know when I am writing exactly what I should be writing, when I can't stop thinking about it. When during the day, my mind constantly wanders off to that work in progress. As I was writing I Profundis, I couldn't get it out of my mind. I couldn't get the pictures. Now, I don't know how it's going to be staged, but I couldn't get the pictures of how it was staged in my mind to leave me alone. And that told me everything I needed to know. That said, you are writing exactly what you need to be writing right now. And what you are writing is exactly what it needs to be. You see, the universe has a funny way of guiding us. Muse, I know you were waiting for me to point this back to you. You have a funny way of making sure that I know I am on the right track. part of that is it just happens. I have had this. I've experienced this on different forms. I've experienced it as an actor. And I know that I talk about this a lot, but when I did Cabaret, it was unlike anything I had ever experienced before, and I'll tell you why. I didn't have the majority of the rehearsals I had for Cabaret were dancing and singing. Otherwise, the director pretty much just said, do what you just do. Just do you. Just do what you want. The director even told the stage manager to not bother following me on the script, to not take line notes or anything. He said, just let him do what he does. Because I had this profound connection to this character. And from the very moment we first started rehearsals, from the very end, it just happened. Yes, I had to work my ass off on the choreography and the singing, but everything else, I didn't have to try. It was just there. Because I wanted it so much, because it meant so much to me. And I've had books like this as well, where the second I started typing the first word, it was just a race to the end. It was, seriously, it was like my fingers and my brain were in a race to see who could get to the end first. Because, and this has happened to me on a number of occasions, my mind subconsciously knew exactly what this story was going to be. It had everything all planned out. My conscience just didn't know it. So when I started to write those books, my fingers and my brain just kind of connected, and it was just a race. It was like, will my fingers beat my brain to the end, or will it be the other way around? And it didn't matter, because eventually I would just get to the end and the book would be finished. And those are the kinds of books that you send off to your editor or you send off to the publisher, and the only thing that changes is some grammar. And fortunately, I've been very, very lucky so far in that most of my books have been that way. Why? The answer is very simple. Because I let my muse, that's you, I let you tell me what to write. I don't tell you what I'm going to write next. I've said it countless times. I just listen to the universe. I know it sounds crazy, but that's just the way it is. And the universe, aka you, my muse, will tell me exactly what I should be writing in that moment. So it is very rare that I have those slog fests. Now, I will confess that after finishing I Profundis, going back to Fear 3, there's been a little bit of a ramp up there, because I Profundis, I wrote it so fast that my brain was still chugging along in that world and in that style. So what I had to do was kind of put the brakes on a little bit and ease myself back into Fear 3. And I remember a couple of nights ago, the first time I went back to Fear 3, it had been a couple of weeks, or maybe, no, it had been a week since I had written on it. So I went back and I read what I had written last. I made a few changes, and then I got to the end of it, and I was like, okay, I wrote a few sentences, and that was it. Because that's all I could do at that moment. And then I went back the next night, and I was like, okay, I'm back. So I just had to give myself time to fit back into that world, not just mentally, but emotionally and stylistically. And I'm back there, and I'll get this one done. I'm over halfway through Fear 3, and Once I get that done, I've got a really cool idea for a ghost story, something I've been wanting to write for a very long time, an actual gothic ghost story. See, right now my mouth is in a race with my brain. But anyway, the lesson here, not to you, Muse, but the lesson here to anybody listening is that write something that's meaningful to you. Write what you love. Be in love with what you're writing. Because when you are, it just happens. You don't have to try. You don't have to force it. The words just flow. It may sound crazy, but it's the truth. That's fact. Anyway, that's all I got, Muse. I can breathe now. Having this conversation with you, Muse, always kind of puts me in a place of peace. And right now, I need that. Anyway, if you're listening to me, be safe. Take care of yourself. Know that I'm hugging you from afar. And just breathe. We're going to get through this. And in the end, we'll all be better for having made it. See you next week, Muse, or whenever it is we talk again. And I know we will talk again. Why? Because you are awesome. Oh no, awesome. Oh my gosh. What's that bent thumb doing there?